So this 5th grade standard PS1-3 is make observations and measurements to identify based on their properties. And looking at what Ali showed us, where we can go to the observable features of student performance by the end of the grade, we can know exactly what objectives we need to hit. So as a 5th grade teacher, I know I need to hit these things. These things. Well, you can't see them. But basically, it's all about how to conduct an investigation, how to plan an investigation, how to conduct research, how to conduct credible research. And this is really important. Research is something they will most likely be doing at some point in their life, whether it's later in their education or in their career. The ability to conduct research and reliable research is important. It's also important to know what's reliable and what's not. I feel like we have this problem in society now where we don't look to experts to find out knowledge. We look to celebrities, we look to YouTubers, to our favorite Instagrammers to find out knowledge. When really that research that they have is not fully credible. So giving the students the power to know what's credible research, what is reliable and what's not, puts a lot more in their hands. So if they miss this, it's a pretty big deal, because this being able to conduct and critically builds on being able to do all these things in the future. So as a teacher, in 5th grade, I think we would work a lot on creating our own studies, maybe finding something they find interesting, and we create our own research projects on it, and have a big research presentation at the end of the year where parents and families can come and students will present their research. That would be really cool, and something that I think would be really empowering, again, because it's a big deal to say I've conducted research on this certain thing. I have my own basis of knowledge, of lots of sources, and I've dove deeply into something, and I know how to dive deeply into something. It's a frustrating task, and it's an important task. So as a 5th grade teacher, that is what I would do. We'd probably also work on critically looking at other people's research. What's good research, what's not good research. And that's really important, because I think right now, and not that there's anything wrong with society now or this generation coming, I'm not some angry old person on Facebook who's this generation. That I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we need to be careful, and we need to really teach there's so much social media power that we need to teach what's credible and what's not. And I think that comes through this research and investigation. I think that is the building upon that. So yeah. So the 5E is the engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate. And it's a lot like the CALA strategy that is in ESL. And let me grab that. Okay, so the CALA is preparation, presentation, practice, evaluation, expansion. A lot like engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate. So it's just interesting. The CALA is just like a instructional process that you use with ESL students. And we were creating a unit plan, and I specifically chose CALA because I had worked with the 5Es, and I felt like it was comfortable. So it's just an interesting kind of thing. When I was working with it, I was like, wow, this is a lot like the 5E lesson plans. But so during the engage phase, you're basically finding prior knowledge and asking questions and engaging them in the learning, getting them excited about the topic. So for our lesson, the Marshmallow Challenge, we read a read aloud Iggy Peck Architect, and this was really just to get students in the mindset of building and being an architect and kind of that engineering design process. And the story, the student has to work against adversity because his teacher doesn't want him to build. So he has to work against adversity to build a bridge to save his teacher. So it just kind of really hit our growth mindset and our engineering architect mindset. And then there's the explore phase. This is basically all student time. This is where students mess with manipulatives, or they build something, or they create something. I feel like this is a very student-orientated time of the lesson. Test hypothesis, free thinking, all that. And this is where our students actually built their tower, and they were doing really cool stuff. They had suspension cords, and they were able to say suspension cords. So it's just really cool to watch them build and think. So our explore phase went really well. And then there's the explain phase, which this is the phase where you kind of then answer any questions they had during the explore. You kind of break any misconceptions they had. So with building, in the explore phase, some students had ideas about making a teepee would be best, or making it something like that. So the explain phase is where you kind of like break their misconceptions. In our lesson, we had the PowerPoint, and I just wish we would have tied it a little more back to the engineering concept, and really explained what the best way to build the tower is and why. We really only talked about the growth mindset of it and not about the actual building. And I think we kind of missed the mark on that, which was a bummer. And then next you have the elaborate phase. This is where you apply it to one more. Okay, yeah. Elaborate. This is where the students will apply the knowledge they just learned. So they'll critically think about how this would work in the real world and what they learned during the time. So they could maybe talk about any misconceptions they had during this phase. This would be a really good time to have that discussion about misconceptions. And then after that is the evaluate, which is just the assessment phase. And I love assessment. I think assessment can be so fun. I think it's so important. It doesn't have to be now write a paragraph about what you know. That's the worst. Boring. Well, in my opinion, it's not bad. I just think it's boring. And I've done so many lessons this semester, just peer lessons, and there's nothing wrong. But everybody, everyone has their own style. But I just have done so many lessons where I've had to write a paragraph reflecting, or write a paragraph using these words, and it just, I think in the classroom, if you use that for every assessment, it would be so monotonous, and kind of makes students hate doing that, because now I hate doing it. So, but this is just where you apply it. So in our lesson, so I don't think I talked about what we did as our Elaborate. In our lesson for our Elaborate, the students talked about how they would apply growth mindset in the classroom or in the real world, or how they've used it before. They just kind of reflected on that. And going back, I wish we would have also brought in engineering and architecture, and maybe how they would use that in the real world, or where they've seen these examples, or how they would apply this knowledge. So we kind of didn't hit it well on the explain and elaborate as far as the engineering and design concept go. But back to evaluate. For our evaluate, we had them fill out an exit ticket, just writing one sentence, how they would use growth mindset, or how they have used growth mindset. Exit tickets are okay. They're okay. I think some of the students struggled, or well, one of the students struggled, and I think it was a hard moment for him to reflect on growth mindset, because I feel like during the lesson he was kind of giving up. So I feel like maybe then, while we were reflecting and while we were talking about it, it maybe made him feel like not so good. But reflection is good. It's good to realize those things, and it's good to see yourself and realize, oh, that wasn't good. I don't want to be like that, and reflect on that. But it just momentarily made him shut down. But I think there was more factors that were making him shut down. I talked about that in one of my weekly reflections on the discussion posts.